So, Google Stadia's dead, huh? Honestly, this felt preordained the moment Google launched their streaming gaming platform way back in November 2019. It was a weird value proposition from the start, with a lackluster library and a proprietary controller brought to you by a company notorious for dropping products not long after their launch. The first thing improved, or so I hear, but the last one unfortunately held true. I actually have a Stadia controller as the result of a gift bonus from buying a Chromecast sometime in the past couple years. It's a comfortable enough gamepad, but you can't use it wirelessly in any capacity other than with Stadia, so it's been comfortably sitting in my closet for a long time now. I did try Stadia when I got the controller. It came with a free trial, and my experience just about matched every streaming platform I've tried in the past several years, which I would summarize as almost good enough. Input lag just kills the experience for Twitch reflex games, and visual compression is always just present enough to remind you that you're playing your game on someone else's computer on some distant server farm. Small distractions in the scheme of things, but they add up to keep me at a remove from the gameplay experience, and so I drop off soon enough. I wouldn't have even made a video about this except for another streaming failure of mine this week. After Elden Ring inspired me to storm through the Dark Souls trilogy on my Steam Deck, I've decided to return to my PS5 to take on Bloodborne and the Demon's Souls remake. Side note, it is criminal that Bloodborne does not run at 60 FPS on the PS5, considering that the homebrew community whipped up a 720p 60 FPS patch for the PS4 Pro using a couple lines of code. I guess it'll have to wait for the 2024 cash grab remaster. I've made a video about my Elden Ring experience. I played it on PlayStation 5, but mostly streaming to my Steam Deck using the application Chiaki. I'd seemed to hit the right combination of router, Ethernet, and Chiaki settings for a smooth, near-flawless experience, which, as I mentioned in that video, was crucial for enjoying Elden Ring, which may not be a twitchy 2D fighter, but is still heavily dependent on timing and reflex. Imagine my dismay then to find that those exact settings in the same environment, wired to Ethernet PS5, Wi-Fi 6 router, now result in janky, stuttery garbage. Audio crackles and spits, video freezes or flashes green, inputs stick whenever the game lags out. A 2-minute test stint in Diablo 2 Resurrected involved accidentally scarfing down a whole column of potions before the game would acknowledge that I'd pressed the menu key. Needless to say, these were not the optimal conditions for starting up a new FromSoft game. I have no idea what happened. Maybe the air in my house got thicker. Maybe the cabling from my router to my PS5 was invaded by tiny trolls. The bridge kind, though the other kind would also find this funny. Even during stretches of smoothness, the experience puts me in mind of my time with Stadia or xCloud, or the other streaming services I've tried since the idea was first conceived. This technology can't work like it needs to. For one thing, internet service is spotty in America. Availability of speed, bandwidth, or consistent access are variable based on where you live and who you pay. I'm lucky enough to have access to Verizon's fiber optic Fios network, and so enjoy high download and upload speeds, but every now and then those speeds tank, and I couldn't tell you why or how long it'll last in any given case. Combine that with the mess of Wi-Fi standards and router variations these days, and you've established a metric ton of fundamental unreliability. Using something fundamentally unreliable to stream 1080p video at 60 frames per second, with minimal lag time between controller inputs that have to be beamed out to the source of that video? It's a miracle this setup ever works. And then I return to the other technological miracle I own, the Steam Deck. A gaming computer that I can hold in my hands and play on an airplane or in bed or wherever the hell else I'm on. Like I said, I've played all 3 Dark Souls games on the deck over the past few months. Dark Souls 3 runs well but has to drop to 40 FPS instead of 60. The other 2 games make similar compromises to fit into this context, but they run natively, which means that every swing of my twin blades or snap of my bowstring happens when I expect it to. And even the visual hiccups happen in an explicable, controllable, local context. The deck gives you many levers and switches to optimize your experience. Console natives may find this overly fiddly, and I wouldn't even disagree, but it also does a great job of helping you set and level your expectations relative to what you're playing. even compromised, it's easy to find a consistent experience on deck for just about any game. Consistency is exactly what streaming services lack, and it's why I have no interest in upcoming streaming-first handheld console options from companies like Logitech or Razer. Streaming is not consistent, it's not reliable, and even under the best conditions in a controlled environment, it's often not quite the same as playing native. I do not see a path forward for this to improve much, at least where I live, outside of further miraculous leaps in video compression tech. American infrastructure isn't exactly on the long-term upswing. I should emphasize that the whole idea of stream-based gaming, the fact that it works at all in any context, is again a minor miracle in itself. And if consistency isn't a huge priority for your gaming experience, it can provide utterly unique contextual experiences. I've played the unreleased GoldenEye remake for Xbox 360 with 3 of my friends remotely using Steam's Remote Play Together feature, along with some community-developed hijacking, of course. I can't see their screens to tell you how good it looks, but according to them it plays near perfectly, which for a Friday night gaming session is all you need for a fun time. But miraculous isn't enough to make streaming a real replacement for most of my gaming use cases, and it's probably not enough for many of your use cases either. It's a nice to have, a supplement that can facilitate some interesting possibilities, but it is not and isn't likely to ever fully replace owning a gaming PC, a PlayStation 5, or even a Steam Deck. When it's failing on rare occasions, that only makes those occasions even more of an immersion-destroying irritation, and your only choices are that it fails rarely or often. Still, I'm hoping I can get Chiaki to play nicely again in my house. After all, there's no better time to harvest those demons' souls than when my wife's watching Property Brothers on the TV where the PlayStation 5's plugged in.